Good evening, everybody. What's funny, Liz? Okay, good evening, everybody in SBC land, SBCC, and all points in between. Welcome to the December 8th, 2020 edition of Tuesday Talk. And I am your host, Mike Walker. And we have on the panel, we have Leslie, we have VL Forbes, Tia, Kirsten, Reginald, Keena, and Steve. And we will have other panelists drop in here and there, okay? So we're glad to have you here. And we will jump to the topic at hand, okay? Men and our emotions, okay? Men and our emotions. We were taught that it's kind of unmanly, at least in certain societies, that men aren't allowed to express their emotions, especially sad emotions. Okay. And this mean courtesy of my number two, Leslie, she posted it in our group. And y'all read along with me, okay? Right here. And you see the mother, and she tells her little boy, hey, stop. I can give you something to cry about. Boys and men do not cry. Now that's kind of bad right there. Then we go to the young man when he grows up. Hey, why can't you just show a tiny bit of emotion? So at what, men are taught not to show their emotion, are taught that crying makes them look weak and spineless, but at the same token, they get vilified. They get, I don't know, insulted because they don't show enough emotion. Where is the middle ground? Is it wrong to teach a man to not show emotion? And I start this discussion off with Brother Nick.
It's just a touchy subject. As you just said, everybody knows that as when you're a child, a lot of times, like I said, as a man, you're taught not to cry. As a boy, you're taught not to cry, not to show so much emotion. And anytime you get emotional, it becomes some kind of feminine negative thing. Like it's just wrong for you to show any emotion. And then when you get older, people even laugh at you or joke you as a man if you say, you watched Roots and cried, or you watched Titanic, or something happened and you cried. As a man now, I mean, I'll be honest. I tell people, I have my times when I cry, tears of joy, tears of sadness. They happen. I don't think it's wrong to teach boys that. I think it is wrong to teach boys that it's not okay to cry, because everybody has those moments. Bible says Jesus wept, but everybody weep. Everybody has those moments. You just bounce back at the mountain. I think people want to toughen men up to this hyper masculinity thing, and that becomes very I don't like the word toxic, but it becomes very bad to the diaspora, because you teach men that a lot of men, black men, white men, any kind of men, that you're just supposed to toughen up. You're supposed to be this tough person, and you just do not help any part of society when you do that to men. You don't help relationships, because people are communicating like they're supposed to be. And real quick, I was gonna say, a lot of times in a relationship, I think a man feels like, well, his emotions are supposed to just stay inside. He's supposed to just be strong for the relationship. So anything he has a problem with, he's supposed to just be quiet and let the woman or the children or whoever else, have a problem or have emotions, and he's supposed to hold his in check and deal with them his own way. A lot of times that to me, ends up becoming anger, and another misplaced anger, where it kind of disperse out somewhere else, or some of them end up drinking and smoking and doing all kind of other things because that energy has to manifest somewhere.
Okay. Anyone else want to tackle this issue? Wait, I got you, brother Foles. Go
I
ahead.
think part of it is that we have not taught people how to manage their emotions, because part of the soulish aspect of man sits within the soul of man is emotions. And so no one has taught, society has not taught us how to manage it. We've had radical emotions. And so, having had a background in counseling and stuff like that, you teach people how to better manage emotions, because emotions is a response to a stimulus that's happening, whether it's internal or external. And so, it's teaching people how to really manage that. We're in control of our emotions. It's just that we haven't been taught that, and we don't have the beliefs of that because we there's been a lot of ignorance on it. And so I think as men and parents, it's important to teach your children how to manage their emotions in accordance to their temperaments, because each temperament is a little different. There are four different types of temperaments. And so, opposed to saying the emotions are geared to gender, they're geared more to temperament than they are to gender. And so it's knowing how to best express your emotions, because there's positive ways to express as well as there's negative ways to express your emotions. And so the basic thing is knowing how to manage the emotions. And so we learn that through life. When you think about it, as a baby, the baby first emotion they learn is crying. If they cry, they get attention. You know, they're taught that. And so is being able to learn how to manage other emotions. We learn as men, we learn if we tell the women, I love you, we're going to get, a lot of benefits as a result of that. And so anger, same thing, learn how to control or manage the anger, because anger in of itself is not bad. It's a reaction to something. And so I just think in the church community, it's really teaching people that. How do we manage it with meekness? The importance of meekness, and how to be able to demonstrate that. And so I've learned that over the years, how to just manage my emotions. So that was just
Okay.
it.
Okay, good. Thank you. And you said something about the church community. And if you notice, men feel free to show their emotions in a worship environment, with crying and sobbing. So why is it looked down upon when we go outside the church doors, outside the church walls? You know, and I have a question for the ladies. One, how do you feel about a man crying? And then should there be, I guess, a limit to how much he cries? Yes, Keena.
Um, I was going to address the why is emotion accepted in the church from a man? Because everybody, and it's kind of a joke, but it's not. Jesus wept. Okay, if Jesus was able to weep, then in men and women who would like to be like Jesus, then it's okay, because he was such a is such a magnanimous, omnipresent spirit that is it makes it okay. But as a woman, I have no issue with a man crying, showing emotion, but I think it's the appropriate emotions and knowing how to manage those emotions. And I'm a single mother, and I have a son, and who is on the spectrum. He has Asperger's, and Asperger's people have issues with processing emotion. So I had to teach him, and along with his therapist, to teach him appropriate emotions. Well, guess what? He started teaching me, because I am a hothead. And I had to learn not to be a hothead because he would model that type of emotion. And I think that's what we need. You know, a couple of years ago in corporate America, emotional intelligence was the it word, you know, and it's because we have all these people coming into these corporate spaces, and then it's like, what corporate space do you not know is not messy? I don't know one. Um, and it's because all these emotions are coming in, and no one's really communicating effectively in um, in their area, because they think of one thing and they have all these different, weird um, thoughts about different things, and we don't learn how to respect each other. So, as a woman, I think if a man comes to me and he's hurting, it's not my job to fix it. It's my job to listen, and to listen, because a lot of times as women, and I've been guilty of it myself, we want to fix. Like, you need to do this and this and this. They come to you and vent, and then you like, okay, you need to do this and this, instead of just letting them be quiet. Be quiet and just let them vent. And I think if we create safe spaces, then we can have those conversations.
I got you. I got you. Anyone else? Any other sister? Okay. Okay. No one?
I think
Okay.
I'll jump in a little bit with what Keena was saying about like with the church. I think the difference, particularly in charismatic churches, is more acceptable, and in we'll say the black church per se, or churches where it's heavily populated with African American, because of the culture, it's more expressive of emotions. And so you may find that, but you may not find the same level or display of emotion in other cultures. And so culture can help you, that safe space can help you with your emotional management, because indirectly it teaches you how to display your emotions. Because I know when first getting saved, you know, my display of emotion is different in year number one versus year number 30, whatever it is, 32. It's much different now. So, and it's different emotions depending on the relationship, because, you know, we may be more vulnerable in our romantic relationships than we may be in certain platonic relationships, because of, once again, to go back to culture and relationship makes a big difference in the display, going back to what Keena said, safe space, so.
I get.
I think so often, and I think we all know this in our Black culture and our African American culture, we have this as in the imagery of that cartoon, is that, you know, when you cry, you're showing some type of weakness. When you show, we do this with little boys when they fall and scrape their knee. Don't you cry. Big boys don't cry. Little men don't cry, but they're in pain. I mean, one thing I used to do with my godson, because you don't want them to holler for every bit of pain they feel. You want them to have to build some strength within themselves and not let the shock of them falling take them directly to tears. Is how you respond to them. He'll fall playing, and instead of you going, "Oh my God," you're like, "Hey, you're okay," and they get up and they're like, "Yeah, I'm okay." Instead of them looking at your fear on your face and going directly to fear, and then they start to cry. We teach this. good or bad, we as individuals teach this to our children. The same thing with grieving. When I've studied grief recovery and grief support, children learn how to grieve and what grief means when they look at the adults. When you go into your room and shut the door and they say, well, mama just needs some time to herself and she just needs to be away and cry so no one sees her cry, they think that's how you grieve and that's how you deal with that and feel like it's shameful or not good to cry in front of everyone else. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. I've seen most of the men in my family cry at funerals and nowhere else. And was shocked. You know, I remember my dad crying at his mother's funeral. That's probably the first time I saw him ever cry. You know, so we have to get beyond shelter. It's us. You know, we can't, you know, it's how we were raised. And then also getting beyond that stigma of, well, that's how I was raised. Well, you can change. You're a grown up, man. You know, you can change how you deal and respond with life by making a choice that when I feel pain or I feel sorrow, it's okay to express it and let someone know that I'm not feeling good today. I'm feeling sad today. You know, if you've lost someone in your life, I'm missing my parent. I'm missing my sibling. I'm missing someone who, and this is a year definitely where so many people have passed away. It's okay to show those tears because if people, if you love them, they're worth every tear. I tell people all the time when they don't want to cry, I said, you love them, they are worth every tear. And be okay with that and be comfortable with that. So we have to, one, get beyond our own selves so we're not teaching the next generation or our grandchildren, whoever you have, whoever's viewing you live your life, and we're not teaching them to do what we learned to do incorrectly. So it's up to us and make people feel it's okay. Not just in the church, one gets saved, they get the Holy Spirit, they want to, oh, well, granddaddy cried. Does granddaddy cry? Did you see granddaddy cry when his mom died? Did you see granddaddy cry when his wife died? You know, he may have felt peace, but it's still okay to weep. It's still okay to weep. So that's all I have.
When my mom passed, I had just been in the ministry 4 years, and I didn't go in the pulpit. I sat with my family, and I broke down. And my pastor came to me and said that you have to be strong. And I looked at him. That's my mother in that casket. You know, that's not a parishioner, an occasional person that I just happen to know. That's mama in that casket. Okay, and I've been with my rib, in a movie theater, and a scene will come on, and because you know I'm a firm believer, pressure busts pipes, and if you are continually holding down your emotions, you're not dealing with your emotions, sooner or later that's going to explode. And when they explode, it ain't going to be pretty. You know, so you know that's why you have these tear ducts God put in your eyes to release that pressure. And if a man does not know how to release because of what society tells him to do or what his homeboys tells him to do, then basically what you're looking at is a bomb waiting to explode. Okay, that's not a good scene. That's not a good scene at all. I had no problem watching a movie and a touching scene come on and shedding some tears in front of my woman. I didn't care because I'm human first. Number one, I'm a human. I'm a man, yes, but I'm human too. And if you so macho that you can't relate, no. I mean, there's a time to be a macho and there's a time to be human. There's a time to be a man.
Mm-hmm. Now that you know what that makes me think what you said, brother Reginald. Then it'd be Shannon next. When I was in psychology class in my senior year in high school, my psychology we took a test, and my teacher didn't like the results. It was like a survey, and he just pulled me to the side and said, "Hey, you just need one good cry. You know, just one. Just to let it out." And I've discovered, especially in my adult life, that one good cry every now and then, and not necessarily tragedy, just really just sit there and just and get somewhere by yourself and just bawl. Okay, just cry, and it works wonders, So hey, sometimes crying is good. I love laughter, you know, but you need a balance, a little crying, it'll help you. Shannon, did she hear me? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Um, the key word you said and that everybody has been echoing is balance. I think that just like everyone has said, men need a safe space to be able to share those emotions. I, however, have seen men at the opposite end where they're just too doggone emotional. And that irks my nerves. I'm not even gonna lie. Where you gotta cry all the time about everything. Like that if I'm a woman and we're supposed to be extremely emotional creatures and you crying all the time, that I don't know, it just aggravates me. And I'm being honest. I mean, this is a panel for us to be honest and be real. And I'm telling you just how I feel and how I'm thinking about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with men showing emotion at all. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that I have seen certain men just be too emotional all the time. It's like at some point, buddy, pick yourself up or something. I don't like you don't have to cry about every single little thing. And the reason why I say that, and I hate that Reginald was told that at his mom's funeral, but the reason why I say that because I do think about how, and I'm only speaking from a woman's perspective, we literally sometimes feel like carrying the weight of the world on us. And if you add being a single parent into that, it's just intensified. Um, and there are moments where we literally feel like breaking down and crumbling, and we do have to go take our moments, in our closet or whatever the case may be. But to have a man that's in front of me, and I'm talking about in the romantic capacity, that I feel like I always got to be strong for you. No, that's not what I want. Um, I do want us to have a healthy balance, though, able to share that emotion, and that's the reason why I said that. It was something that Leslie said not too long ago. You want them to be able to express their pain, but you also want someone who knows when to say, okay, that hurt, as opposed to, okay, that hurt a little bit. All right, keep it moving. You don't have to cry about every little thing. You just don't. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. And it goes, and I think you answered Rhonda's question. Is it okay for a man to boo-hoo cry every time they cry? Ah,
I mean, that's up to that man. I just don't. I mean, it's exhausting. If you've ever had an emotional, and this goes for men too, an overly emotional woman that cries about every single little thing, like just can't handle nothing. You sneeze wrong and they cry, and it's like it's too much energy, you know. At some point, you're like, baby, go sit on somebody's couch and then come back. You know, it's exhausting. And we all go through things in life. I understand that. I'm just talking about the type of person that just cry all the time about every single little thing. Like, that's exhausting.
And you know what? You just hit on something when you said, go sit on someone's couch. Maybe there may be an underlying issue as to why they're so emotionally unhinged like that. It could be some underlying causes like that. Hey, trauma, who knows? Who knows? And Teresa says, okay, and I feel that men should show emotion, not be judged for doing so. Kirsten.
So I wanted to touch a little bit on Reginald was talking about in the church, his pastor told him he had to be strong. I think that all of us, because I know I've been in the ministry a long time, and I'm sure most of us have. And the church itself is really, really harsh on, are they always push to make sure that you're the strong one, because you have to look strong and you have to be strong because other people are looking at you. And I think that can be harsh to some people. And I understand that you're in a ministry and you're there to, uplift and preach, teach, or do whatever. But I feel like that pastors have to still understand that at the end of the day, we are still human people. We are still people at the end of the day. We still have emotions. We still have an understanding. We still deal with all kinds of things, that we do on a daily basis. I can recall at one point, my dad was a singer, and but he would when after he sing, he would sing so hard at times that he would almost pass out at times, and I would go up and I would try to help him, and he would be at my church, and my pastor would be like, no, don't bother him, he's fine. Well, hold up, that's my daddy. You gonna tell me to go and sit down and or what have you, and not help my daddy? And that kind of put a little a little hurt in my heart for you to tell me as my pastor to not help my dad. So we have to, I think that on a different spectrum of church itself, people sometimes have to be a little bit more careful in understanding the emotions of dealing with, your like Reginald was saying, your mom, your dad, your emotions. We have to be careful and try to find that balance between church and man. It's just there's just a fine line, and we have to be able to find that fine line. So
I
Yes,
was
ma'am.
marrying a couple, and the place was packed. The groom, best man was standing next to me. We were fine. As soon as they opened the door and the bride steps in, he immediately starts to cry. She's walking down the aisle towards him. She's crying. The mother of the bride is crying. The father of the bride is shedding tears. Now, me being the preacher has to remain calm because I got all this emotion around me, and I got to be the one that's got to be the strong one. And they're saying their vows, and they're crying as they're saying their vows, and I'm standing there trying to have ice going through my veins, because when you're in a situation like that, it's easy to get caught up. It's very easy to get caught up in that situation. although those are tears of joy, but they're tears nevertheless. And so that was interesting wedding, to say the least. But you know, thank God we got through it.
Okay. Tia?
I was just gonna, I was gonna kind of piggyback on everything that everyone was saying. I do think that in proper context, that emotion, expressing emotions is really crucial. I think that it creates a bond between people. I mean, just listening to that story about the husband seeing the wife, like how much, how much of a bond will they remember? They'll always remember that moment when he saw her and she saw him and they walked and they connected in that moment. I think you see more and more how, like, you think about John Legend, and they just recently lost their baby, one of their babies, and you see them talking about that hurt and that pain, and I do think it's important for people to realize the humanity, that those kind of situations come about. Um, I think it's crucial. You see men doing their children's hair, and I have a girlfriend, her husband, he tells, and he's a guy's guy, and but he tells the boys, "Daddy love you." Like he wants to know that he cherishes them and loves them, and they still do rough and tumble stuff, but they know that he loves them, and he communicates that to them on a regular basis. And I think that if we can move beyond the stereotypes and move beyond the falsehoods, because the reality of the fact is that men feel they're just putting on a good face, right? They got a good poker face. And so if we can allow people to express what's really going on, then we create like a whole healthy atmosphere. Because if you got to put on a front, then I have to put up on a front, and then our kids see us doing this fake stuff. When do we get to be just relaxed in ourselves and be truly authentic? So I do think that it's important. I do go back. I agree with Shannon, right? It's in the right context, because we've also seen men and women that manipulate by, you know, exaggerating emotions. So, you know, honest, authentic emotions, absolutely, including frustration and anger, but also joy and sadness and, enthusiasm, all of that whole well-rounded piece of the person is crucial.
VL. I get you.
Touch. I think one of the things we have to get in touch with our emotions. Sometimes people are not able to recognize their emotions, because emotions, as I said earlier, is a response. I'll give an example today. On my job, there was one part of my company had got sold a year ago, and they finally disconnected those individuals from having the ability to IM them. And I remember I sent them a message today to say to people, "Hey, I miss you," because I'm accustomed to seeing their name light up on the screen and sending them an IM, and it was a change. But I recognized how I was feeling, and I said it to them. "Hey, I miss you." A couple of them I sent a text, and some of them I sent a posting on Facebook to say, "Hey, my day was a little different today because I didn't get to see their names light up." And so I just think sometimes knowing how to recognize what's going on inside of you, that in of itself, I think is very critical. Whether it be anger, whether it be sadness, because there's so many different emotions. And then sometimes people don't know the gamut of emotions that exist. And so going back to that modeling, we are epistles. And I think today, society now accepts emotions a lot better than they did 10, 15 years ago, like Keena was saying, emotional intelligence. And so we have the opportunity to model that to other people, which then in turn can become more infectious through that modeling.
Mm. You said that society is more accepting of emotions, recently, but you look at all the bad stuff has been happening in the world. You can't help but to, sad but true, become so emotional, and everybody becomes emotional. It's just sad. But Teresa says my male cousin cried at his wedding when his bride came in. Then the best man, my uncle, started crying. Then me and other family members. But it was tears of joy, you know. And us being single, we're actually looking forward to those. Go ahead, brother Steve.
I guess everybody hit the nail on the head tonight. But I just want to make my voice be heard on the topic. Uh, we are not properly taught about emotions because most times we speak about emotions and the only thing comes to our mind is being sad. Oh, you're being too emotional. That's just being sad. But we have to be taught properly um, about controlling our emotions, managing our emotions. Because one thing I've learned though is, especially in the church, once we're connected to the Holy Spirit, once we're walking in the Spirit, our emotions come to play. There is once we're in church, our emotions come to play, and a lot of us don't know how to control our emotions. We don't know where we stand. So as brother Reginald was saying, he had to be the strong one in front of everybody else who were being, it was tears of joy, yes, but it was a broken moment that it was a so there's somebody who has to know when, where, and how, and we ought to be taught. And I just heard that the society is accepting emotions now, um, because we're now being more educated than before. And even those who before who knew anything, sometimes we were miseducated or things were misunderstood back then. But I think we're now being more educated, um, especially since this pandemic started. We've learned more throughout this year than we've ever learned before. So I say, um, those of us who know, we have to start teaching our kids, our relatives, try to get them involved in emotional education because it is very important. We teach boys, yes, not to big boys don't cry, but it damages the boys because when there's a time to show emotion like being sad or whatever, you know, a lot of relationships go bad because men don't show emotion and women are like, oh, this just happened and it's like you don't care. I've got that line before. You're acting like you don't care, but it's not that we don't care. It's more like I've been taught not to, be feminine about this. I'm not gonna rant. I'm not gonna rave about this because it's already happened. So we really need to be educated about emotions and not just think of emotions as being sad, but to properly align our emotions with situations.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brother Steve. Item two. Item two for tonight. When it comes to, oh, look at Liz. When it comes to relationships, is the past truly the past? When it comes to relationships, is the past truly, in capital letters, truly the past? Who got this? Go ahead.
I
Whichever. Go ahead, Tia.
oh
Tia, then
I
Shannon. Okay.
that it can't be fully the past, because our life experiences impact like how we act, right? Like if I hadn't been I'm divorced. If I hadn't been married and then gone through the divorce, then I wouldn't have learned the life lessons that I know as far as relationships are concerned. And so I can tell you all day that I'm done with that. But the reality of the fact is there's life lessons. And if I don't, they have that saying that insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. If I haven't learned from that life experience and I keep doing the same thing, that's insanity. And so, you know, I mean, can I heal and move forward? Absolutely. But can I erase the new knowledge that I have based on that life experience? No, you can't. And you really don't want to. Like, you want to grow and evolve and be better, not stay stagnant and stuck doing the same things that weren't, obviously you're not in that relationship anymore, so it didn't work out because something happened, and you can't blame the other person all the time for everything. So I say no.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, Shannon.
I actually agree with Tia. I think that if used properly, the past can be a blessing. If used improperly, it can be a hindrance because sometimes people use past hurts, past disappointments, and those things can hinder your current relationship because now, just like everyone is seeing that saying, you're now bleeding on someone who did not even cut you in the first place. So it's important to heal from those things. It's important to learn from those things, but it's also important to never forget those things because if there was a lesson in it, then it's important to learn that lesson so that we're not repeating those same mistakes. Because insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I saw someone else post in the group before, um, how many times have we dated the same person over and over again? That's because we haven't learned from those things. And so the past is there for a reason. It's the past. Um, and I only look at it in my rearview mirror so that I can see how far I've come. But I'm not going back to dwell there. Not at all. That's why I don't believe in like going back and forth to past relationships. Like for what? I never seen anybody run backwards on a treadmill successfully because that's not what it was designed to do. You're supposed to go forward. And that's what our past is, allowing us to move forward, but still remembering those things, taking account of those things and learning from those things.
Okay. Uh, who is next? Leslie?
Leslie.
Yeah, and then VL.
Um, okay. I know we're all taught to forgive and to forget. But I revamped that a little bit because the Bible tells me to forgive, so I can forgive you for what you've done to me. But I'm not gonna say sometimes. I just can't forget how you made me feel. And I am very intentional on having people in my circle that honor, that can honor who I am as an individual, who have integrity, who are honest, who are loving, all these things that encourage and uplift us as individuals that we do for each other. So it's like how you make me feel. That's what gets you in the circle. And that what makes you a friend. So if you're someone I'm in a relationship with and you have done nothing but bring stress and discomfort and grief and all these things that are not good for me, then that I need to move on from that. And I need to remember how my encounters with that person made me feel. And that what makes you shouldn't want to go back to that. If someone did not honor you, if someone did not respect you, if they didn't love you, all those things that we're expecting from someone we're in a relationship with, why would you go back? That's insanity. That's mental, just your own self abuse of yourself. That's picking the wound. And that's all those things that are y'all know what's that word?
Self-inflicted wounds.
Self-inflicted wounds. Thank you,
Self
Dr. Michael.
sabotage.
Well, no, that's a little different. But self-inflicted wound, yeah, that's what I was looking for. So yeah, so and that problem going back is not them, is you that has the problem. If you could continually going back to someone that is not honoring and respecting you. So we can only do the best thing we can do for ourselves is to move forward and be with people who will honor and respect us and make us feel good.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
VL.
I think that with the past is being able to process certain things that have happened, like in the thing with trauma and stuff like that, we as people have to process through in order to get in the present. We got to kind of deal with the past. And so I think that's critical. But you also have to use discretion or wisdom because almost like something Leslie was saying, there's some things that have happened in the past. They're learning things, and there could be toxic situations or things detrimental to one's physical health, emotional health, that they just got to put healthy boundaries up because you've noticed this behavioral pattern that have been going on or this person's history that is saying this is detrimental to me and I may not need to be around this person who is not thinking logically, that kind of had this emotional gun and they're not stable and I'm in that environment. And so you can't the mind records all. So it's not like you're going to forget it. You put it in perspective, but you're really not going to forget what happened. You may have processed through it. You may have learned to accept it, deal with it, tolerate it, but it's not going to go away. It's not the hocus pocus and it's just gone. But we got to process through stuff. And so I think that to me is important. Even when people have some situations may have hurt someone, but you see the anger today and go through the layers to see that's really hurt. It's just acceptable for them to have the anger, but for them to deal with that trauma, that offense, that bitterness, that whatever that has happened to them. And so and that's why something you said earlier is counseling. Sometimes we need somebody to talk through things with more than the friend, someone who can guide us that has some expertise. Because there are a lot of emotional, not diagnosed issues, but a lot of emotional infirmities that we're walking around with because we've never got any healing from it. We may have dealt with the symptom, but we still have the problem.
Okay.
One of
Okay.
the things
Thank
I've learned over the years in dealing with relationships, because I went through a very bad one and wound up in court with restraining orders, police involvement. Um, I've learned to pay attention to the warning signs. A lot of times the red light goes on, but we say, we can fix that. We'll get that person together. They'll change. No, just like Maya Angelou said, if I show you who I am the first time, believe it. And so if you don't learn from your past, you will make the same mistakes in your future. So when you see the red lights going on, pay attention. The one thing the Holy Spirit will do is warn you. And if he's warning you about this individual, don't ignore him. Because guess what? If you ignore him, you got to come back to him and ask for help. So that's my take on it. Learn and adapt.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Nick.
Oh, I don't have much to add. Everybody's giving such great
Oh,
points. I
oh,
don't want to rehash all that,
oh,
but I
oh,
definitely agree
I
with the last
get you.
sentiment. You have your past. It's the past. You got people who um, like to live in the past. You live in your past hurts, your past experience, the highs and the lows. You can't stay there. You can't stay. Uh, you know, um, you can't stay in the wilderness. When you're supposed to be coming out and getting baptized and going to save the world. You don't have that kind of time to be just living in that what happened yesterday. Yesterday happened. You learn from it. Like he said, you learn from your mistakes. You learn from your pluses and your minuses, and then you have to move forward. I always tell people all the time. People start complaining about stuff. I'm like, that's cool. You complain about everything you want to. But after you get done complaining, you got to find a solution. You got to find a solution. It ain't on me to find your solution. It isn't. I'm not trying to be funny. It's not even on God to find your solution. Because once you find Jesus, you find a solution. Yes. Once you find God, you find a solution. But you have to get there. You have to get to it. You can't just sit there wallowing in your problem. Because the problem is the past. God can fix that. You know. But people start wallowing in their past and the highs and the lows, and they don't embrace the future. So, I was listening to somebody talk the other day. I'm sorry, real quick. And they were saying, they had met somebody and they were about to start dating, and then somebody from the past showed up, and they decided, okay, well, I'm going to make this person be more serious with this person from the past. I mean, that's, I guess it's all fine and good, but if it wasn't working before, I don't know why you would think all of a sudden now it's going to work, but everybody learns differently. You have people who just, they want to try and try and try again. And then, you can do that, but then you can't complain whenever it don't work. Because the only person you had to blame from you because you didn't learn from the past. Oh, and that's it. That's all I got.
Yeah. Kirsten.
I must agree with everyone. You have to, and I truly have to say that learning from your mistakes and moving forward is key to everything. But to truly let go of your past, I think if you stub your toe and you go back and you hit that toe again, it's going to remind you real quick that you hurt it the first time, and if it still hurt, it's going to remind you if you go back and hit it. And for some reason, when you stub that toe, it's so sensitive. You seem to always go back and
For
hit it
some reason.
again for some reason. So why would we, as a human, want to continually hit it
Mm-hmm.
again on purpose? You understand what I mean? You don't. That's something that you just don't want to do. So we definitely got to be mindful of where we were, what we was, and who we are today, and remember what
You
tomorrow
know,
holds.
I'm listening. There's something I was thinking about. I know there were a couple of exes of mine that um, things I ended things with, and we talking about like over 15 years. I want to say more like over 20 years. And so they would come back. Now I ended it 20 years ago and never looked back, but they would come back because they realized what was so good. They wanted to kind of go back to that place again. And I'm sitting there like, huh? I don't
Mm-hmm.
go back. It ended for a reason, and you may have changed. I have no desire to go to explore it. I appreciate you, you know, find me favorable, but I don't want to go back. But some people could change. So it's not necessarily bad because some people can mature from their past situations. So it's not always bad, the past, for some people. There's some benefits from the past too. And so I just kind of want to give those two slants because we were talking about the past like it was bad, but there was some good for some people. And it's like I remember I was having a conversation with my siblings, and I used to be married, and I remember there was a picture that I had with my ex-wife before we got married with one of my siblings, and I remember um, someone had made a comment to me because I had the picture up at the time, and they was like, you should take that picture down. I was like, I mean, I ended the relationship. So I was like, I'm not trying to hold on. This was an important time in my brother's life. This was a good time in my life. I'm not going to take the picture down because, and it wasn't someone I was dating, because you think that I should take it down. This was important in his life. Now, I don't know what the picture at now because I moved or whatever, but at the time it was like, I shouldn't have to take it down because you think that I should take it down. I processed through everything. I'm not going to cut the picture in half. This was an exciting time in my brother's life.
Right.
This was a nice time in my
Right.
life. It was the past, but there was nothing bad about it. I don't need to take it down, So
I get you.
My thing is, when you're an ex, you're an ex. No one is fit for the kingdom with the hand of the plow looking back. They became an ex for a reason. And if you try to regurgitate that, then that's on you. But once you become an ex, the numbers change, everything is deleted, done, and move on. I'm not looking back. My ex-wife, we've been divorced since '95. You think I'm gonna go back? I'm going home next week. You think I'm gonna look her up? No. She's an ex for a reason. I'm done. No, no, no. No.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
And it's funny that you say that, man, because I think about it, and I would get in relationships with people for even just friendships, and we wouldn't talk for a while or whatever, and then they'll call me out the blue, and like you said, you get rid of the number and everything. You like, who is this? And jokers just answer the phone. You answer the phone, I say hello, and they start talking like I just got finished talking to you yesterday. I'm like, it's been a year. I ain't seen you, talk to you, and they just want to say hey and see how I'm doing and blah 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 blah. Tell me about how they doing, and I'm like, that's cool. They talking about, yeah, we should go out and have dinner sometime. I really miss our friendship, and I really miss so and so. And I'm like, hey, That's cool. I don't push any of that. I don't, it's like that is great that you want to get together. That sounds interesting. And I keep on talking because that was the past. Nothing against you, nothing against, like you was like my man said, you want a horrible point in my life. I appreciate you. Even if it didn't go right. I appreciate you because I learned something from it. I learned what not to do, learn what to do. I don't have no problem with you, but we're not going back. I don't want to go out and have dinner and hang out and walk in the park or whatever. No. That was the past. That's cool. We can talk that once a year when you call or whatever. And that's cool. But you can't. No. Some people go backwards, and like he said, some people can change. God bless them. But what they say, fool me once, I'm good.
And you know what?
Answer the phone. So.
And you know what? They tickle me calling after they dump me or whatever, go their separate ways, and then say, "Hey, I'm just calling to see how you doing. How do you think I'm doing?" Yeah, well, okay, this is SBC. I can't say how I want to say it. Go ahead, Shannon.
I was just gonna add that sometimes the lesson learned is for us to see what we should have done differently and how we need to be better going in the next relationship, because sometimes we are the problem, and that's a hard thing for us to acknowledge, because it's easy for us to say it was the other person. They did me this way. They made me feel this way. Well, how do we make them feel? And so sometimes the past is also not to just teach us about what we should and shouldn't put up with, or, who we should be looking for, but the past is there to teach us how we should be better going into something different. Because again, if we're taking our old habits and our old issues, which is it's us, it's you, we're taking those into new relationships, then we will continue to make a mess of things. And it really, at that point, it doesn't matter, because we haven't learned anything. And so I think it's important to just also acknowledge that we can sometimes be the problem. And I'm talking to Shannon, because I know Shannon was the problem a couple of times. But I had to do self-reflection and realize that there were some things that I should have and could have done differently, so that when I'm in my new relationship and I decide to get married again, these are things that I will not take into that relationship, because I've learned.
Mike,
Very
there's something
emotional.
I want to say, that there's a difference between avoidance and healing. And I think sometimes we think that because we've avoided something or we're not connected, that we've been healed from it. And that's not the truth. It's like, you're healed when you can go back and interact with something that may have inflicted you. I remember last year I ended up falling, missing a step. I learned my healing when I go down the steps every day. I learned how I progressed in my healing. I don't learn how I progressed in my healing necessarily if I stay in my condo. And so that to me sometimes is important. And sometimes in the church community, we confuse faith with, because of sometimes ignorance, and we think we're healed because we said it. But faith without works is dead. And so there's some work to process through things of the past that we need to deal with in order to move further in the future of faith. Because in faith, you don't ignore what has happened or what the reality. Faith says that there's a promise that God has said, but you got to still face the facts and reality. So
And to me, that's I'm
avoidance,
sorry. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that avoidance is not same as healing.
No.
It's like and this is something that to me that I've learned is like, at least for me, the revelation I've gotten. All my exes, we have a good relationship today. We may not interact with, but we have a good relationship today. Whatever that means, we're not necessarily buddies, friends, or whatever, but all of them, we can interact and say, hey, how you doing? There's something positive we're going to say about one another because of healing that have taken place. Don't mean there's hunky-dory, but there's healing.
Okay. Keena.
Real foils, let me tell you something. What you just said just hit. I have a situation going on. Not going to get into all of it, but I thought I was healed from something, and I have been avoiding it. And I'll say this: I've been divorced for 12 years, and I thought that I was truly healed from that relationship, but I've been avoiding it because, and we were Facebook friends. He comes to see his son, but it was always in a private setting, and I never had to deal with it in a public way. Well, he's dating someone who's in my Bible study group, and he doesn't go to that church. So I've never had to deal with him in a public setting and deal with all those feelings in a public setting. And I've been feeling some type of way about it. You know, I just said I don't I don't know. That I mean, I've been very quiet tonight because I've been in my thoughts, but I have been avoiding, and that's something I have to work on.
If I can throw in this for free, um, you get married and you end up in divorce. Okay, it could be you or it could be him. Your second marriage ends in divorce. Now you up for the third marriage. Now the question becomes, is it really that first marriage or is it you? Because three strikes, yeah. Okay, now the first one may end it because he may have been unfaithful, you may have been unfaithful, whatever. The second time, something else comes up, and then you're gonna go for a third time, then you have to stop and wait a minute. Is it me or is it them? Because there's three sides to everything: his side, her side, and the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts more than anything else. So you try to avoid the truth and blame it on them when it's actually you. Because if you go into marriage twice and that second marriage has failed, and now you're telling me I want to get married again, I think we need to talk about this first. Because there is a pattern starting here. It may not be the man, it may be you.
Leslie.
It's something that VL said that triggered a thought for me. When he talked about that fall he had and healing, I remember I was in a car accident and someone had ran a red light and hit my car. So of course after that I'm experiencing a little PTSD. Every time I get to an intersection and the light is green, I'm slowing down. I'm looking to see what foolishness may be coming through this red light. And that happened, and that fear and that hesitancy, that continued for at least 3 months, maybe a little bit less than 3 months. But I knew I was over it when I was able to drive and go through an intersection and not pause when the light was green and I had the right of way. So And thinking of that in that common scenario, car accident or a fall down some steps, how did you feel when you had your first love? How did you trust? Were you open? Were you giving it your all? Were you all in? And then when that first love broke your heart, how did you deal with the next relationship? Because how you healed or didn't heal from that first pure, wide open, heart on the table, on your sleeve, honest, beautiful first love, because you opened yourself, you experienced it all from head to toe, inside and out, just all that it could be in its purity and what it was. Have you had that level with anyone else after that? Because if you haven't healed from the first. And I think what's happening with all of us is that we are dealing with the next relationship and the next relationship, nothing like that. And we are still holding back, holding it close, coming to that green light, pausing when we should be going and trusting ourselves, trusting God, trusting the situation, being open. I mean, isn't it a phrase about dance like no one's looking, love like you've never been hurt before? Do we really do that? Can we do that? Is that just a poem or a quote, or is it something we can really, truly do? Because if we need to do that, that's where we need to be. In our elder ages, because all of us in here don't look like we're in our 20s. I'm looking. Some of us are maybe in our 30s. Some of us are in our 40s. Some of us are a little bit older and seasoned. I think if we focus on ourselves and get back to that point of loving and experiencing those relationships like we did on that first one, we may find something special. I think we'll truly find something special. So that's my focus on myself. I remember for me, and I went on this, when I went into ministry, you know, women in ministry is different than men in ministry. When women in ministry, for me, it was hard to date because I was so scared that I was going to mess up or do something wrong. And because we're judged differently than men. Men can be out here just doing, in some areas, can be just doing whatever. Where the women are looked at as nuns and as, you know, walking a straighter line and a narrow path. So I was celibate for over 10 years. And then when I decided that, well, you got to date, you got to actually try to do something, meet somebody. And the first person I dated, I mentally, in my mind, said, you're going to be completely present, completely open. And it was a wonderful relationship. It didn't work out, but it was a wonderful relationship because I felt like I was completely present, completely open, and was there and was willing to be whatever I need to be, completely Leslie in that relationship, good and bad, all those things. And I felt like that made it it was a better relationship, it was a great friendship, but it didn't go to another level. We're still friends to this moment because I was a good friend and a good person in the midst of all of that. And it ended in a good way. So, and I still try to do that. It's hard because you don't want to get hurt. You don't want to put yourself out there. But I think that's part of our issue, is that we're not completely there in those relationships, and people are waiting for the real person to come sit at the table. And that person was way back at that first love. That's it. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. And
the doors of the church are open.
That's right. Will there be one?
Will there be one?
By letter, by Christian spin, or candidate for baptism. Won't you come while your blood running warm in your veins? No. Okay. Well, we out of time, overtime, and that's great. And we'll go with the announcements, if you will. We will have the Zoom after party immediately following. The menu will be cow tongue, poke salad, and macaroni salad. Don't that sound good, y'all? Okay. Okay. And this Saturday, we will have, this SBC Saturday night. And this week will be Shoot Your Shot. Okay. And next week we'll be Making the Connection. Okay. And those who are interested in making the connection, please remember, we just can't put you in just then. It's a process. Ain't that right, Shannon? Yeah, it's free. It's a process. Okay. And we'll talk more about that. And next Tuesday, Lord's willing, it's going to be SBC Tuesday Talk, men only. Okay. So we got some of the brothers in here. And we're going to show y'all how it's really done, okay? So, okay, y'all be ready. That's all I'm going to say on that. And with that said, the quick question is, which would you rather have? Would you rather receive a recycled gift for Christmas or no gift at all? Go right ahead.
No gift at all.
Uh-huh.
None.
No, thank
you.
you.
No gift at all. No gift at all.
No gift. I'll be good.
Thank you, but no
I'll
thank
take it.
you.
No gifts?
Just a gift card. Put money on it. I'll take it.
No gift. No
I'm
gift.
like, it depends on what it is.
Even if
It depends on what it is. That's all.
Even if it's a thought. No, even if it's a thought, that count. No.
Okay.
Unless it's
No
longer, can't it?
stuff, no.
Okay.
Kind of like yesterday. Brand new one, yeah.
Well, the panel says no. So no gift at all. So thank you all for joining us tonight. May y'all have a blessed evening. Join us at the after party. Thank you for your support. Until until Saturday, we see y'all, okay?
Let's take some time and think for a minute. What's going on? And are we with it? I got no phone calls made, but if no one calls, it's another day. How can I explain to you what I feel?